Welcome to the very best part of my broadcast week. Welcome back to the Dubliner. We're always happy to be here. So the exit interviews are beginning, not with President Biden. We may land that one, although I have my doubts. But exit interview with Joe Manchin, who, when President Biden started, was a Democrat. He's no longer a Democrat. He's an independent. And when there were moments when the Biden legislative agenda in the Senate were hanging by a thread, it was often Senator Manchin who was critical to the conversations of whether that legislation would fall apart or get across the finish line. Senator Manchin, great to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Great to be with you. I didn't know this was your office. I like it. I like it.
The Dubliner is sort of a second office I like to embrace.
Yeah.
One of the things that was true during the Biden presidency is you took a long, hard look as to whether or not you would run for president yourself. Any regrets not running?
Well, if there would have been an ability to get on 50 ballots and put a real good team together, which I knew I could have done, and being a part of another person's team, either way, the system has gotten to where we have a duopoly, a business duopoly of a Democrat business and a Republican business. It's not faring well for our country. And I've become a Democrat because I like both sides. I like all the people on both sides, and I want to work with both sides. The duopoly of the business model doesn't allow that to happen. They want you to pick a side.
Right.
And all they're basically spewing is, we are better than them, and let me tell you how bad they are. And you have to basically not only dislike them, you have to hate them.
You have to hate them.
They want you to hate, because what happens is, if you're trying to get a fellow worker or colleague fired every time they're up for a promotion or up to keep their job, and you're trying to get them fired, you're not going to have a good working conditions in your workplace. It's just not going to happen. So it's deteriorated to that point. Every Democrat believes that every Republican will be out there trying to defeat them when they're up for re-election, and every Republican does the same thing, believing about Democrat. When I first got there, I told Harry Reid.
Then the Senate Democratic leader.
He was a leader, and I'm coming in. And they want you to go make phone calls, raise money, this and that. And I said, well, I'm not for election, so why would I do that? Well, you have to have a PAC. And you have to
build
help.
the team, and you got to raise money, and you got to give to your other
and
Senate
I said, Harry, let me
Democratic
just make sure
colleagues.
you understand where I come from, my state of West Virginia, and just the salt of the earth, good, hardworking people. If you try to get me fired every day I go to work, you and I are going to have one heck of a conversation. It's not going to be pretty either, okay? So how in the world do you expect me to look at my friends on both sides, my Republican friends and Democrat friends, and then all of a sudden they're up, they're in cycle for re-election, and now I'm not supposed to do a bill with them, or I can't co-sign and be on the board, because it might give them more notoriety, help them get elected. If it's good for my country, it's good for my senators, and on both sides. It got to the point I could never have been a Washington Democrat, and I have a lot of friends who aren't Washington Republicans. I am much more comfortable as being an independent because I can keep my friends on both sides. But I think for my friends to get the grand old party to be grand again, and the Democrats to get the Democratic Party to be responsible and compassionate again, you're going to have to push from the middle. You asked about a third party. I think it's time. I would have loved to have been on the ticket as president or vice president, either way, with a ticket that showed it. We brought a Democrat, former Republican together. We put a team together. It's called the American team. And you go from there. I think the country is ready.
So let me ask you this. Again, do you have any regrets not running? But let me add to that. If you had made that decision to run earlier, maybe 18 months away from Election Day, do you think that might have propelled Joe Biden, then the president, still the president, to consider earlier not running for re-election?
I don't know. I think, Joe Biden came in, and I've known him for a long time. He's been a friend, okay? And we've been friends. And friends can agree to disagree, and we did that too. And friends can get mad at each other, but it should be unconditional. It never destroys a friendship.
And you guys got mad at each other?
Yes, and I was hoping that was what we had. Sometimes there'd be long moments of silence, but they come back. We all came back. Anyway, he was only going to run one term. Okay?
That's what he sort of implied.
And here he has to.
That's what the country, I think, heard.
He has to make that decision or whatever, and I understand it's hard. The trappings is hard, and basically you work your whole life to get in a position to do what you want to do and what you can do, and then things happen, and then Mother Time, we cannot run her.
Undefeated.
Can't run her, outrun her. She'll win every race. And so with that being said, I did everything I could, and I'll say this again. As a red-blooded American, you should do everything you can if you're in a position to help, and every American can do something, contribute, to help your president be successful. That is your president. Donald Trump is my president, incoming president. Whether you vote for him or not, whether you're on the same party, same affiliation, same ideology, he has now been elected and spoken by the people through a representative form of democracy. And I will defend that to my nth. But you got to speak truth to power. You have to know how to speak truth to power. It's very respectful. Mm-hmm. Some people you have to basically, you can't tell them what they did wrong. You got to look at what they want to do and try to make it better. And that's basically giving it to them. They'll take it and come to that conclusion and move on. So it's just, I think I've been blessed with that. I look at everything that can be made better. I've never met the first person who's always wrong. Mm-hmm. And I've walked away too soon thinking they were wrong. But the more time I spent with them, I found out they had an awful lot to offer. Every campaign I've been in, I have learned something from my opponent. And mm-hmm. I've called them after the campaign and says, you know that debate we had? That was some good stuff you had. Mm-hmm. Can you help me on that?
Right.
It's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And you know what? It takes the thunder out of all the discourse and all of the bent-up anger you had because mm-hmm. you had to, this is the opponent. So I came to the conclusion, I tell people this, I'm competitive. If I compete against you, I want to beat you. I just don't want to defeat you. Mm-hmm. I want you to come back and keep making me better until you're better than me. And then I will do the same for you. Today, that's not what we're doing in American politics. They want to defeat you and beat you down so bad you'll never raise your voice again, or you'll never come up and get air again, or ever get in the political arena again. And we're not getting people in. That's why I said, we need open primaries. Give me an open primary, and they can't basically pinpoint someone said, you're not a good enough Democrat, or you're not a good enough Republican, and I'm going to primary you. I'll get someone that'll toe the line.
Did Kamala Harris ever have a chance to win this race, from your perspective?
From my perspective, and I didn't say, I kept, I've known Kamala, and we got along fine, and then
she have a chance?
No.
Okay.
And the reason I've said that, I've said this. Here's a lady, and a good person, well-intentioned, well-educated, everything, and well-spoken, good thought process.
Get on with it.
Oh, here's the thing. She never got above a 29% approval rating in 4 years with the American public. I don't know how you put me that far in a hole. I don't know who could climb out of it. Mm-hmm. She did one terrific job in 100 days. And they said, if you'd had longer, it'd have been better. I don't think so. I think it would have been...
You would have been worse.
I think so. And the reason said, I like the 3 month. I like to see that as law. You can't run more than 3 months before the general election. Would love that. But anyway, it was a very difficult climb. She did as well as anyone can do.
Had the enthusiasm, but in the inevitable reappraisal that every race that I've ever covered has, voters like, oh, this is new, interesting. But then there's a moment of reappraisal.
Well,
she went through that, and right about that was October, and that's when things began to freeze and then fall for
here's
her.
What everyone knows. Everyone knows the president has his staff, his trusted allies around him. And now the vice president comes in, even though they're on the same team, the vice president has her trusted team around her. Okay? Sometimes the team's not on the same page, sometimes not even involved that much in what's going on. So when they said, do you support everything that was done? I'm on the team. I'm number 2. It's not my game plan. I didn't put the game plan out. I didn't call the play. Okay? Would I do it different? Absolutely I'd do it different. But while I'm there, I'm trying to make that president, my president, and my partner as successful as possible. So if you're blaming me for being on the team, I'm guilty as charged. But if she don't say that, hey, would you change anything? Would you say, let's don't leave Afghanistan this way. Let's don't give Bagram Air Force Base away the way we did. Let's not do the border. We've never given asylum at the border. There's some things we should do differently. Right. If you had that input, you got overruled, you're still the team. But can't you say when you're on your own now, yes, I would have done it different. Here's how.
That's the voice of Joe Manchin. More from the senator on Kamala Harris, those issues he just identified, and so much more coming up on the Takeout. Stay with us.
That's when they threw out the 17 Nobel laureates, and I said, you got 17 educated idiots that are telling you what you want to hear because you paid them.
Welcome back to the Takeout. Welcome back to the Dubliner. Always happy to be here. Joe Manchin, independent senator.
Very independent.
West Virginia. So you just ticked off a couple of things.
Yeah.
Would you say the three blind spots for the Biden White House and the Harris campaign were, in no particular order, Afghanistan, inflation, and immigration?
Inflation first. Okay, and that was all over it, and I warned of that, and I got criticized, as you recall. And they told me they had 17 Nobel laureates. And I'm
when
thinking,
they were doing the American Rescue Plan and then following that up with the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah.
You said too much spending.
No. American Rescue Plan, then they came to the BBB right behind it.
Right.
Inflation reduction was energy security.
Right.
It's done its job, and we'll go into that. The thing that happened was inflation is something that's personal to you because you know what it's costing you. You know what anybody's decision, right, wrong, or indifferent, is coming out of your pocket.
Yep.
And if you got more coming out of your pocket to put gas in the tank to go to work, you're ticked off.
Yep.
If you stop at home, you can't get out of the grocery store with less than $50, $100, and you got nothing, you're teed off.
Yep.
And that's what was happening. You could feel that. Everything was moving in the right. We didn't fall through the floor, but we gave out $3.2 trillion. When they started first sending checks, both Democrats and Republicans, under Trump,
yep.
Okay, I kept thinking to myself, I remember reading my history books, and I enjoy history. I never remember in the Greatest Depression the world has seen, or the United States has seen in our modern lifetime, reading about the 1930 Great Depression. I don't remember reading where FDR sent checks to anybody.
Did not.
Not one check. So I'm thinking, this is not right. But we had a pandemic, so we didn't know. It was a different story. You couldn't do something. You weren't supposed to go anywhere. That was a mistake. We found out later, but we erred on the air of caution.
On the side of caution, yep.
Okay, so here we go. And then by the time it was over and the election was over in 2020, Joe Biden won, Donald Trump lost. We had put $3.2 trillion in, mostly all in a bipartisan way.
Yep.
Joe Biden gets elected, comes in. I say something on the floor when I hear they want to do the American Rescue Plan and want to go in reconciliation. That means forget about your friends on the Republican side. They got no input.
No Republican votes required.
I said, they're crazy. I'm not going to be for something like that. I can't do that. Well, no sooner than I said it, maybe another senator heard it at 10 o'clock in the morning and in one of the committee rooms, and by 2 o'clock I'm sitting in the Oval Office. What in the heck are you doing, Manchin, here? And this, I said, so we sat there, and I'll never forget, the president made everybody leave the room, just me and him. I said, Mr. President, I said, listen, you were the only person on the stage running for president with all the Democrats in the primary, telling them that you weren't for all this crazy stuff. You needed to frack. We needed energy. You weren't for Medicare for all. We had to have a system that worked, but also just don't throw caution to the wind, throw the baby out with the bathwater. You went through all those things, and you know what? You won. Now all of a sudden, you said, I've been there 36 years, I can bring people together. And he was a master at making deals. You could always make a deal with Joe Biden. And all of a sudden I said, sir, you throw a nuclear bomb out. Why? What do you expect? Who told you, and how did they get you so fired up that you think no Republican will work with you? You haven't tried. And you're the one that says you know how to do it. And you did more deals than anybody, I think, when you were up here. So he said, Joe, got to do it, got to do it. And I'm thinking, did the Democrats tell you that no Republican wants to work with you? Did Mitch McConnell say that we're going to do everything we can to defeat you? What did they say? You and Mitch knew each other. You worked together for 30 years. Yep. So I went on and on and on. And I said, sir, why don't you do this? Put a shot clock on them, on all of us up there, all the senators and all the members of the House, and say, guys, listen, here's my agenda. I'm going to give you 45 days. I want to go through basically the jurisdictional committees.
Right, go through the committees, go through the process.
Right.
Regular order.
And then I said,
see what happens.
And then
see where we are.
That's right. And I said, make them prove they won't work with you, and you've got to do this. Joe, I got to do it. And I said, so I finally, after I looked at him, I says, are you asking me as my president and my friend to do something I think is wrong, and I'm trying to give you my best advice? He said, Joe, and I've always been differential to any executive or president especially, or even as a governor when I was there.
Yeah.
You want to give them your differential to where they ought to get a program that they think is really something special. And I said, Mr. President, I will vote to get on this reconciliation, but I'm not assuring you I'm going to be for everything in this thing, because it was a pretty far-reaching. He says, okay. So the rest is history. Remember when I stopped and it shut down for about 8 or 10 hours?
Yep.
That's because they were extending unemployment benefits and we had a vaccine that worked.
Yep.
And I told them, I said, you got a vaccine that's working. You've got people that got money because we sent a check to everybody. And if we didn't send a check, it was by mistake because you tried to send a check to everybody. And I said, and they got nowhere to go. Now they've been cloistered in their home. They're ready. They're jumping at, they're pulling on the bit. They want to run. And they're going to go out there and find out the supply chain's been weak. Things were shut down. They'll be paying, I want this, I'll pay whatever price I can to get it. And they're going to inflate it. You got inflation coming at you hard when you do this. And now you're still keeping people out of the workforce because you're going to give them an extension clear up until October 2021.
Of unemployment, yeah.
Of unemployment benefits, and they can't go back and can't be threatened to lose their unemployment benefits. You've got a perfect storm hitting you. I'm begging you.
A storm of your creation, Mr. President.
That's when they threw out the 17 Nobel laureates. And I said, you got 17 educated idiots that are telling you what you want to hear because you paid them. Okay? You can imagine how popular I was.
Yeah.
But I was honest. I said, if you can't speak honest, if you can't speak truth to power, then you shouldn't. But if you do it respectful, and I tried to be respectful, and then they all jumped, Manchin, know what he's talking about. It's going to be transitory. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was transitory, right? We're still in it. But I will say this. Then they came right back to the BBB.
Mm-hmm. They were Build back better, right? Infrastructure.
And that was 3.5 to 6 trillion. It was way over top. And we couldn't even digest the first 3.2 we did in 2020. We put another 1.9 on top of it with this one here.
Right.
Now you're up to real money, 5.1 trillion.
Yes.
That's more than our budget for the whole year that we spend.
Right.
Okay. And I said, we're in trouble here. And then they wanted to BBB, and I says, no.
The Inflation Reduction Act after that, yeah.
And then inflation, so killed that one. They all got way out of joint with me.
Yep.
Politically, it was a move. Politically, if you're looking at it politically, my polls went up 30 points back home. Everything. I didn't look at it. It was a bad piece of legislation. How I finally told the president, so, Mr. President, you and I are about the same vintage. You're a little older than me. And I said, I remember very vividly as a young 12, 13-year-old kid watching John Kennedy give his inauguration speech, ask not what the country can do for you, what you can do for the country. I said, Mr. President, you passed this BBB. You're changing the psychic of our nation to, how much more can my country do for me?
Yeah.
I said, sir, I didn't sign up for this. I wasn't raised this way. You can put a gun to my head. I can't do it. That's how we walked away from BBB.
Mm-hmm.
And why in the hell did Joe Manchin go back and do Inflation Reduction Act? Ukraine war. If you remember, Major, the Ukraine war, when it started, we told it was going to be 2 weeks long, right? This thing was going wild. And then Putin weaponized energy and threatened all of our European allies. There's an old song, looking for love in all the wrong places. You're going to have our friends looking for energy in all the wrong places because our administration, the Biden administration, did not want to produce any fossil. So we weren't energy secured. So I'm thinking, we got a problem because Xi Jinping's going to be looking at what Putin did, and he'll start basically rationing what we're going to get and what we need for our building blocks, our defense, and our economy, because we're relying so much on China. We let things go away from us for manufacturing. So we went through that, and I told one day Schumer, so you got bigger problems than me. You got an energy problem. And they said, well, this was in March, I think, and they said, well, you're the energy chairman. Why don't you write a bill? I said, Chuck, you're never going to like a bill. You're believing with all these progressive left-wingers that basically you can eliminate your way to a cleaner environment. And I know that you can only innovate your way to a cleaner environment through technology. So I am not eliminating. We need to produce more energy cleaner and better than we've ever done in the history of our country.
Hold that thought. More on that piece of legislation, future of energy, and Joe Manchin's relationship with the liberals and the progressives when we come back.
I like both sides. To be a member of one side or the other, you want me not to like the other side. That's not how it works.
Welcome back to the Takeout. Thanks for hanging out with us at the Dubliner with Joe Manchin. So continue on about energy security and how you came down on that legislation and what the long-term effects of this country are going to be.
First of all, the only reason you have an IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, that basically was designed to, and me and my staff, nobody knew about it from March, April, May, clear up until June. Nobody, because I didn't want to go through what I'd just gone through, taking a complete beating from everybody, every
Right.
Democrat.
Being kicked in the shin and elsewhere.
For 8 months.
Yeah.
For 8 months, Major. And I said, I'm not going through this again. So I said, let's see what we can do. We got a chance here to put our mark on an energy policy for our country, but it has to be balanced. So I knew the administration is not keen and it was not kind towards any fossil, nothing out of the ground, nothing
Right.
with fossil in it.
Not oil, not natural gas,
nothing.
fracking, anything.
Coal, forget it, everything. So I said, well, that's not going to work. So we wrote the bill around, we'd produce more energy than ever in the history of our country, produce more oil, more natural gas, and as we speak, last year we're 38 trillion cubic feet of gas, 4.7 billion barrels of oil. We have done 14 billion cubic feet a day in LNG.
Liquefied natural gas.
We weren't doing anything before that, okay? And that's how we start replacing the Russian energy, Russian oil and gas. So we did that, and in the same time, we were investing in all the clean technology that's already been proven, but was never matured. Hydrogen's been around forever.
Yep.
Geothermal runs Iceland.
Yep.
We knew all this stuff. We need nuclear, and we need battery storage. We can make, but we didn't. It wasn't dispatchable. We can only do wind and solar. It's intermittent. So if you could take it all that you can overproduce in 4 or 5 hours and save it for 100 hours, you got something.
Right.
Okay.
But we don't have
so
that
we're
yet.
We're going. So I said we got to do all that, and we're going to use incentives. When we did that bill and finally did it, first of all, I knew that I was committing literally political suicide. And my reason for that, it would be portrayed, it's a Democrat-only bill. Manchin just fell in line with all the liberals.
Right. Okay.
That's what they tried to say.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't the case at all. They didn't look at the bill. Because I told the president before he signed the bill, I said, you all, him and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, I said, do you all know what this bill really does? You really know? Because we wrote it. Oh, yeah, we're all for it. Well, I said, do you understand? You can't put a windmill in the Gulf of Mexico unless we're extracting the gas and oil. It's tit for tat. We're going to produce what we need, and we're going to invest in what we want. We can't get what we want until basically what you want will replace what you need at the same level, better, cleaner, and cheaper.
Right.
We're not there. So don't start cutting something off. It's not going to happen. And that's how we got what we got. And I lost about 30 points over one weekend when the bill was passed. But, you know, that's a small price to pay if you do the job. Mm-hmm. I've seen people here 50 years and never got to put a pen to a piece of legislation.
Yeah, right.
We wrote it word for word all the way all through.
Talk to me about immigration and the blind spot the administration had almost from the beginning on this issue.
So wrong. First of all, we missed a golden opportunity in 2013 when we passed a bipartisan immigration bill.
In the Senate, yeah.
2013 going into 2014 for election, maybe it's 2014. Mm. Anyway, what happened, and we passed it in the Senate with 68 or 69 votes, D's and R's, heck of a bill.
Yep.
We wouldn't be here. Got over to the House, and my dear friend John Boehner, he couldn't put it on the floor. I said, John, I'm begging you, please. He said, Joe, Eric Cantor just got beat.
Right.
They used that again, amnesty. He said, Eric's for amnesty. We had a pathway for citizenship, but by God, you had to earn it. And we don't have a good immigration policy.
It wasn't amnesty, but they called it amnesty.
That killed him.
Yeah.
So John was afraid to bring it up.
Yep.
Well, the end result was the same anyway, whether you brought it up or not. I said, John, put it on the floor, just walk away, it's going to pass.
See what happens.
Yeah, it would pass. So we didn't. And then for some reason, I guess the pandemic comes, everything shut down, people are just in disarray around the world.
Right.
So maybe the president, sympathetic, saying, well, maybe I can help some. They just threw caution to the wind on the vetting process, and that means we created an asylum position for you before we vetted you. We can give you asylum after we vet you to see if you even have a right to put a foot on our soil. Okay, that was thrown out. And that's
it was assumed you qualified for asylum before we knew anything about you. In miniature.
Yeah, it was a bad situation, and I begged him. I said, do you understand?
What did you tell them?
I said, I'm begging you, please, shut it down. Stop it, shut it down. You can do that. And I said, Trump's things might have been unorthodox, and they might not have stood up in court, but by God, he did it, okay? all of a sudden, everything that you don't want to do, you use and this is my friends in the Biden administration, you are using the theory that, oh, it won't hold up in court. But the things you want to do, such as exonerating all student loans, which will not hang up in court, and never has.
You did that.
Because you don't have the power of the purse, but by God, you still did that. So you're picking and choosing, and you can't defend it.
Right.
And that's what happened to him. It was a horrible, it's the greatest threat we face. It's inflation, immigration, okay? And then leaving Afghanistan, that's a large repair. We have to pay that
You
price.
criticize the decision to leave or the manner with which we left?
You can leave by never leaving, okay? You can leave your war posture, but keep your peace posture, and that's peace through strength. Well, we've done it in Korea.
Right, so there was a whole conversation within the administration, a residual force, a small footprint, smaller than we had,
Much
not
smaller.
very large.
Bagram would have been our base. We worked out of Bagram, and they knew that we were there.
And you would have favored that.
I was totally in favor of that. And you're talking about anywhere from 45 to 85, no more than 10,000, 5,000 to 10,000 troops.
Right. At the
rotating
most.
in, yeah. And you can do that in a very, very controlled way. And we've been able to do that. We're very good logistically at that. And that's what I think should have happened, but it didn't. Okay? And then it turned into just a fiasco.
And you know as well as I do, Senator, that the polling data on the Biden presidency retained the support of independents through that August of that first year. Democrats were obviously there, of course. Republicans were not there, but independents were. They see the calamity in Afghanistan, and they get off the bus, and they never get back on. And 13
Here's the thing. Let me tell you, I'm an independent. You are
now.
You would think Democrats would wonder why I left. Okay,
Why did you
I was always a very conservative Democrat. There was not a place. And you would think, I've had people say, well, why don't you just become a Republican? I like both sides. To be a member of one side or the other, you want me not to like the other side. That's not how it works. And that's why you asked me about the third party. You can force them to start coming back. You're going to have these extreme elements. We've always had those. But they've always been in the fringes. Now they consume.
And they dominate.
And that's a bad situation. But think about all the millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent on these elections. And they're targeted on independents. They're not targeted on, I got to re-strengthen my base.
Right.
Or no, I got to do this. Your base ain't going anywhere. It's staying there. So you spend all this effort, all this energy, and all the resources on those of us who are undecided, have no party affiliation in the middle. There's 51% of us that belong in the same political posturing that I am. No party affiliation or an independent. 23% are registered Democrats in the country, 25% registered Republican, 51% in the middle. But as soon as you get elected, by them making a decision, because you convinced me you're not as bad as the other person, so I'll take the least of the two, least worst of the two. And then when you get to Washington, you forget all about us.
I want to get back on Afghanistan real quick. Some senators I talked to said not only did they disagree with the decision of the Biden administration, they were appalled by the arrogance of the administration afterward. Not admitting that they made any mistakes and basically ignoring or slow-walking requests for information and
I don't know.
oversight.
As human beings in this wonderful free country of ours, you can't make wrong right. We've all tried. In your family, when you're a kid growing up, you want to, oh, no, I didn't. No, that's okay. We're okay, And you want someone to verify that. But in your heart, you can't make wrong right. You can't shine certain things in life. Okay, it is what it is. Looks bad, tastes bad, smells bad, it's bad. Okay, you can't shine that. So certain things don't happen. You're not going to change. Why they can't just say, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I can fix that. When you make a mistake and you can't own up to it, and that means, did you make it intentionally then? Since you don't think it's a mistake? That throws doubts.
It
and
festers.
I said, I can accept your mistake.
Yeah.
As long as I know you can try and improve something.
It festers, and it did. Joe Manchin. Segment 4 of the Takeout, the Dubliner, coming your way in just a second.
You don't give a damn about the working person anymore. You care about people that aren't working. That was it, and I don't know how to make it any simpler.
Welcome back to Takeout. So great to have you with us. Dubliner is our host restaurant. We're going with coffee and water. Very light footprint today, but we always thank the Dubliner. Joe Manchin's our guest. I'll do a postmortem on the 2024 election in a second, but
Sure.
One thing I want to ask you. In your career in the Senate, is there something you opposed that now you wish you had supported, and something you supported that now wish you had opposed?
Let me just give you something that's very vivid in my mind.
Because you said a moment ago about mistakes, and I wonder if...
Don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Okay.
You love whoever you want, do whatever you want, okay? But in the military, it's always been don't ask, don't tell in the military.
Right.
Okay, Joint Chiefs of Staff are there. I'm on armed services. Now, I've been a governor and all that, but never at this level, okay, for the military. So, don't ask, don't tell is a big thing. The war in Afghanistan's hot and heavy, okay? And they're all there, and they're asking all the Joint Chiefs of Staff, okay, from the chairman on down. And it got down to the Marines, Commandant of the Marines. And he says, I'm asking you all not to throw this on me when I've got 50% of my troops deployed in a very harmful, dangerous area. That's a big pill to swallow right now. Don't know if it's right or wrong. It's right now, it's a big pill to swallow. And he says, so I'm just asking that I think you should be deliberate in what you're doing here. I took that at heart. If that was my son over there, and they're saying, wait a minute, I don't know. And I don't know, does that change the morale and somebody gets a little bit reckless, if you will, or maybe not on the best game? I didn't know anything about that, but I knew I took his words very seriously. Fast forward, it had to be a month later, I'm on Rachel Maddow show. Somehow, I know Rachel. Now here she comes, and she says, she saw me, and she's very nice and everything, and all of a sudden she came right, boom, and being interviewed. Steve Clemens was doing it, back and forth. And she says, well, I have a question I want to ask the senator there. This don't ask, don't tell. Are you, kind of a, whatever you want to call someone who might not be understanding and
a homophobe is one word that sometimes
they've used all type of words against me, but
yes,
and it's not. I could care less.
Are you discriminatory, or do you have a bias? Are you against people who are homosexual?
She was going through all that.
Right.
I looked at her and says, I made a mistake. I took the advice and erred in caution, and we found out the advice wasn't accurate because it didn't make a difference. It didn't change morale. It didn't change the fighting spirit. Never changed anything.
Right.
So I made a mistake, and I'm sorry for that.
There you go. What did the Democrats do wrong in the 2024 election? What do they need to think about and reconcile themselves
how about what
to?
They've been doing wrong for a long time. Manchin.
Okay, go ahead. Jump in.
Well, here. I come from a little town, Farmington, West Virginia, 500 people. Never knew any Republicans. All Democrats. Okay? Little coal mining town, because FDR saved most of them from starving. So out of loyalty, that's probably what they were. But they're still very conservative people, hardworking. Never knew anybody that didn't work. You didn't work in our town, you got thrown out. Okay, you weren't going to loaf on the street. So Democrats were always believed, how I was raised, the Democrats would always make sure that they fought like heck to get you a good job. Safe working conditions so you come home at night.
Right.
Okay? Good pay with benefits you can take care of your family, live a quality of life. That's who we were.
That's it.
And live your life. Now, I told the Democrats, they asked me one time, what happened to the West Virginia Democrats? I says, they want to know what happened to the Washington Democrats, 2014. Because my state flipped from being solid blue to ruby red. And I said, you know what happened? They did all the heavy lifting. They mined the coal, did the heavy lifting, never asked for anything. They basically made the steel, built the guns and ship, built the factories, fought in the wars, shed more blood than most any state, but little state. And now we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not green enough, we're just not wanted at all. And you spend more time worrying about people that are able-bodied and capable of working than you do those who are getting up every day making an effort. So you don't give a damn about the working person anymore. You care about people that aren't working. That was it. I don't know how to make it any simpler. That's it in a nutshell. If they want to be honest with themselves, figure that one out, because I don't know how you put that genie back in the bottle. And don't tell me and try to mainstream minority positions that you want to mainstream. I, as an American, and I, as a legislator, will defend your right to love and in the pursuit of happiness, and whoever you want to love, whoever you want to be, I'll defend you to my dying breath. Don't try to make me mainstream something that's not mainstream America. It's not what we should be teaching in our schools, or what you should think my family is not right enough, or we don't believe like you. Don't get into that part of my life. I can handle that.
Does the Democratic Party at its upper echelon have an intolerance problem?
For people like me?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's why I left. Sure.
And for moderate Democrats?
But here, I got Republicans feel the same way.
About their party?
Yeah. Yeah, it's gotten too far to the right.
Mm-hmm.
And I've simply say this. My Republican friends would like for their grand old party to be grand again. And the Democrat friends would like for the Democrat Party to be compassionate and responsible again. And they think they've lost both.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned how West Virginia has changed. I went back and looked. The last Democrat to win West Virginia, Bill Clinton, 96, with 51%. But the last Democrat to win West Virginia in a mano race was Michael Dukakis in 1988, 52% against George Herbert Walker Bush's 47%. That was the last time. I mean, and I was surprised that West Virginia was part of the 10-state Dukakis coalition in the 1988.
We were solid blue as you could possibly get because, again, our beliefs were that the Democrat policies would help people who wanted to work and make an effort to take care of their family. Mm-hmm. When they lost that, they lost. You know, we were the northernmost southern state. We're on the Mason-Dixon line. Right. South changed many years ago because of racism. Our state changed because of opportunities and work ethic and how we were treated.
How you were treated, disdained, and treated disdainfully by Democrats, by national Democrats. Handicap where Democrats will be 4 years from now.
Look at 2 years.
Okay.
How do you handle it? You better come out of this as a positive. Again, you want your president to succeed. You'll do all you can to make him successful. You'll speak truth to power respectfully. And when you're speaking truth to power, you're not against something. You think it can be better. If you take that attitude, you might have a chance of getting back. You might have a chance of balancing this thing out a little bit better.
What's Joe Manchin's future?
Well, I'm going to be I'm going to help my daughter with Americans Together. She has a 501c4, and it's basically teaching people how to take back our government by getting involved. And first of all, we're trying to educate and teach you where you live, what type of government you have, and what you could have. That's all. Once you know that, the opportunity's there. The hardest problem I got is recruiting people to be involved. They won't put their name on the ballot. They don't want to go through it. And the system is so rigged now. And I've said this. Whether you like Bobby Kennedy Jr. or not, okay? But here's a family, here's a person with a name and his father and his uncle, the lineage they had and revered in the Democratic Party, and he can't even compete in a Democratic primary, whether you think he's right, wrong, anything else you want to think about him. But the party is so closed up that you can't even compete, can't even get in. The door's closed. The end's all full.
The voice of Joe Manchin. Stay tuned for your Takeout Outtake Especial. That's next. We'll see you next week, folks.
I can do all the dances. I know how to do them all. And now all the guys are standing around don't know what to do. I said, oh, let me show you.
Welcome back to your welcome to your Takeout Outtake Especial. Joe Manchin is our guest. So, Senator, you might be familiar with these questions. Answer them quickly if you could. Most influential book in your life? Going to enjoy some great music? What kind of music is that going to be? Artist or genre? All-time favorite movie?
Zhivago is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Dr. Zhivago.
Okay, that's an old one, so you tell
That's a great one.
Yeah. I'm an old rock and roll.
Oldies rock and roll.
Yeah, rock and roll. My
50s,
sister,
60s, 70s.
Yeah, my sister made me dance every day. She came home from school. I'm 10 years old. She's 13. She's going to sock hops. It's 1957. And I had to dance every day with her. And I said, oh, my God. But she could beat me up, so I had to dance. Now I become 13. I'm going to them. I can do all the dances. I know how to do them all. And now all the guys are standing around don't know what to do. I said, oh, let me show you. So I was in good shape then, so I thank for that. The books, I've had so many, but my historical books, the one I really liked is Churchill's Follies. And if you ever read that one and found out about Churchill, how they divided up, and how the UK Empire, the England Empire, the British Empire, what they did over in the Saudi, over in the Middle East, Churchill's Follies. That is probably one of the most intriguing books I've read. I like it. If you haven't done it, grab it.
I will. When you think about Winston Churchill and his role in the 20th century, what do you think?
Oh, no, I love this. You set me up on this one. I tell all my friends in politics and in this relationships, people says, oh, my God, I don't know where we're going to make it. I don't know if we're going to make it. We're so divided and torn up. What are we going to do? And I says, every time someone says to me, I say, oh, no. You got to think of Winston Churchill. Can you imagine in 1940, he's got everybody coming out, the big bad Germany's coming, the SWAT, and here he is, his partner says, hey, when are you going to get your buddy, FDR, come and help us? When's you going to get to this war? He says, oh, my friends. He said, don't you worry about the Americans. They'll always do the right thing once they've tried everything else. So if you think that we've gone to hell in a handbasket, we're just trying everything. We're going to do the right thing sooner or later. We're just trying everything, okay?
We'll find it.
Okay.
Thanks, Senator Manchin.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
See you next week, folks.